Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Zemfira from Zemfira Games, and we are finally back at the Wet Sox Zoo. We haven't been here for quite a while since we've been building for our desert zoo, the Desert Wildlife Park, which was dedicated mostly for the animals from the yet newest DLC, the Arid Animal Pack. But since we finished all of those animals in the zoo, we are finally back at our marshland tropical zoo, the Wet Sox Zoo, and we are continuing to build this cute Asian small-clawed otter habitat. So let's get started. As you might know, the Wet Sox Zoo, this is as I said, marshland and tropical inspired zoo. We've already have a handful of habitats in this zoo. In case you haven't seen them, go ahead and check out the playlist of the Wet Sox Zoo. There are all the habitats we have currently built for the zoo, and we are finally back and building new habitats. And as I said, we are building a habitat for the Asian small-clawed otter. In my opinion, probably one of the cutest and most adorable animals that we have in the game yet. But it might change because if you maybe have seen or maybe you haven't, Frontier announced a special live stream on the 11th September, which is very, very soon. And they are most likely going to announce the newest DLC that we are going to get. And I am very excited for this live stream. I will 100% try to attend the live stream. And I will also most likely do just a very small video or very short video for all of you guys which might not be able to attend the live stream or just didn't see it in time that there is a live stream. So I will make a small video about what was going on, what we are getting in the game, what DLC we are getting and when. So you can be excited for this one. And personally, I am honestly hoping that we get a petting zoo DLC, and also with the new animals that we will then get, the ability for the guests to actually interact with the animals. I mean, we did shortly get, or some time ago, get the feature that they can be spit at by certain animals. And maybe if we are getting a petting zoo DLC, that the animals will be able to interact with them and pet the animals if they are in a walkthrough habitat. So we will see. But I think most likely we are getting some kind of island or maybe a forest DLC, which is more like the theme of the latest packs, which were the Arid Animal Pack and the Tropical Pack. So we might get something like as I said, an island or forest or maybe a marine pack. That are also three themes that I would personally really love to see. But yeah, I will be excited and happy for basically everything that we get. I don't think that Frontier can do a DLC that would be so bad that I wouldn't be happy with it. So I am very, very excited. But yeah, we are not here to talk about the live stream that is coming up or the news DLC that we will get very soon, hopefully. We are here to talk about the small-clawed otter. And as you can see, we are actually starting with the indoor habitat, or not really an indoor habitat, but more of a backstage area. for these animals. And for this habitat, or not only for this one, but with the latest episode, which was the African elephant episode, I wanted to start building really realistic habitats. And what that means is that I will try to find resources about those animals on website that like publish these best practice guidelines or husbandry guidelines for these animals if they are kept in zoos. And I researching for those and reading those, or like at least the parts that are like important for me while building the habitat. So when it comes to like what they need in their habitat, what kind of indoor area do they need, what kind of enrichment, how does the fencing need to look like, and stuff like that. So on a really realistic basis, and not only what the Zoopedia in game says. And this is also the reason why we don't really have an indoor area, because the Asian Small-Clawed Otter should not be kept inside anyways. It should always be outside, and only should be like kept inside for a very short period of time. And only for like little checkups on the animals. So they basically don't really need an indoor area, because they just shouldn't be kept indoors anyways. And we are also in a biome where the temperature is perfect for the otters all year round. So that's why I didn't really do a indoor area, but instead did these bigger wooden boxes that can be closed from the sliding doors, so that the animals can use these boxes as they like every time when they are open, to just chill in them and sleep in them. Because the otters need some kind of like these boxes, not only like the small ones that you will later see in the habitat itself, because it is said that the otters need at least one of these small boxes per otter that is in the habitat, maybe even more, and they also need one box that is big enough that can fit the whole group of otters. So that's why I decided to use this box that is big enough for the whole group, to use this indoors, and basically to use it also as a box where the otters can be accessed by the staff. I mean, the staff can, of course, also go into the habitat when the otters are out, but still we have this box that can be closed through the sliding door, so the otters are kept inside, and they can open, or the staff can open this box with this little handle that you can see, and access the box for cleaning purposes, and also to check up on the otters if they maybe wouldn't be able to catch them outside, so they can lure them into the box and then open it and get access to the otter. So that's what was my thought behind it. I am not entirely sure if this would be like 100% appropriate, but that was like my own interpretation, and I didn't really see pictures of like hard shelters or backstage areas of small otters. I saw it with bigger otters, but I don't know if their requirements are different than from the Asian Small-Clawed Otter, simply because of the size and maybe from where they naturally live. So I need to read that if we are building other otter habitats, and we also will build another habitat for an otter species, also in the Wet Sox Zoo, which is going to be the giant otter. Because in this area of the Wet Sox Zoo that we are starting right now, I was thinking of building like a smaller section that was a little bit separated from the main path, where there would be like a special section of the big and the small. I am not entirely sure how I want to call this section, but we will basically have the small and the giant otter in there, and we will have the hippo and the pygmy hippo. So I thought it would maybe be cute to have them in like their own little section of the zoo, to have like the big brother and the small brother basically of these animals in these sections. So yeah, we will see how the habitat is going to be for the giant otters. And we will see how the husbandry for these animals will change, simply because those are a little bit of a different otter. But yeah, and here we are starting to build the water area for the otters. It is said that the water area should not exceed 30% of the whole habitat, so maximum 70% land and 30% water, or maybe even like 80 to 20%. So that's what I try to do in here. I know that the Wikipedia says something a little different. But I mean, yeah, we are just going for the realistic one, and I think it should still be fine for the Zupedia requirements. So this is why it might look a little bit small to you, or not like really a lot of water to you, but this is simply due to the real life requirements. And of course, I wanted to give the guests the opportunity to have a little underwater viewing area, so that's why we lowered the path a little bit in comparison to the main path, and have these really big windows where the guests can see through, and the water is going to be a little bit higher than it is compared to the path for the guests. So we can have like a underwater view and also like a little overwater view, but you will see that in a second when we start to fill up their little swimming pond. And here you can see how I use the glass barrier even inside of the habitat, which is a little tip of mine. If you are doing like any kind of waterhole, bathing area, and stuff like that, and it should be a little bit higher, or you cannot quite get the turnaround to fit that the water wouldn't like overflow, or that you can just put water at the height that you need it to be, because we all know it can sometimes be a little tricky. That you can use the glass barrier, or not only the glass barrier. I think every solid barrier should work, obviously, besides the fencing or the fence area, a barrier, oh my god. And so you can extend it into the habitat, or just use it alone and not connected to the main barrier. It only is important to not close it into a little circle or whatnot, so it's not like a closed little area, because then the animals would not be able to go into this area, because the game just doesn't recognize it and you get some problems. So it's just important that you keep it open and just like one line of the barrier, or at least keep some kind of opening, so the game doesn't recognize this area as another habitat on its own. So that's what I use here, because I just couldn't get the ground to be like the exact same level that I needed it to be, and not like going inside of the barrier or like poking through the glass. So that's why I extended it and just covered it up with the rocks, and also to just give the water area a sweet little look, and to not make it too plain. Yeah, that's what I did here. And what you saw me do a few seconds ago was again using the gravel path, because I just really like the look of the pebbles that we get, and the otters also need a little area where they can have access to gravel or pebbles. And so I use the path inside the habitat and layered it around, or layered some rocks around it, to have this little area where they can have their pebbles, and to not having the pebbles being scattered around the whole habitat throughout the time. So I just laid it out with some rocks around, and obviously to hide the edge of the path, and it looks just a little bit smoother. And here we are building a little waterfall section, or not really a waterfall, but like this little spring that we have, which is then going into their mud enrichment item. And I of course lowered it a little bit into the ground, because I just don't really like this wooden barrier that is around the enrichment item. So to hide it, I just lower it a little bit into the ground. And to just make it look a little more cohesive, and really just not like an item itself, but more like a just an area that gets muddy because there is this little water spring that we have. And otters also need not only that little gravel or pebble area, but they also need a sandy area where they can play in, and probably like roll around and just do other things. So that's what I also did here. On the side we have this bigger sand pit that is also like enclosed by rocks, so that the sand just doesn't get mixed with the normal earth and grass and stuff that we have on the other side. So it just stays like a nice playground almost for the otters. And here I am doing the normal barrier, which is not see-through, because obviously we don't want the guests to have like a full 360 view inside the habitat. And so that the otters can also have a little bit more of privacy, and have just a few areas where they just can't be seen by the guests, and can feel a little bit more private for them. So, and here I use the wonderful rocks by Caesar Creates. I just really love the look of them, and they are just super fitting for this zoo, especially because we have this like tropical marshlandy vibe. And I don't know, I just think that the rock walls by Caesar just fit very well in here. So that's why I use them as a little barrier. And we will also later decorate it with some roots and the ferns that we got from the tropical pack, which are insanely beautiful. Probably one of the best plants that we have in this game yet. And as promised, I'm also going to tell you some facts about the Asian Small-Clawed Otter. The Asian Small-Clawed Otter, as the name may suggest, is the smallest otter species that we have. And it is only around 45 to 60 centimeters long, including the tail. and only weighs around 1 kilogram, which is around 2 pounds, maybe a little more. And the current population in the wild is estimated to be around 5,000 individuals. And the otter is currently staged as vulnerable, and the numbers of otters in the wild are also sadly decreasing. The otter has its name, small-clawed otter, because it has, compared to the other otter species, very small claws and therefore also less webbing on their feet, because they highly depend on their feet to find food, basically. And that's why they have smaller claws than their other cousins of otters, we could say, and that's also how they got the name. And also, as the name also suggests, is that it is found mostly in South and Southeast Asia. And otters in general actually inhabit every continent on this earth besides Australia and Antarctica, actually. And otters also love to rub against like stones and logs after they were swimming, to leave like a scent mark. And every otter has like an individual scent, which is as individual as our fingerprints. And they can also use around a dozen calls to communicate with each other. For example, a distress call if they are in trouble and need help. And not only that, but otters in general are also very clever, as you might have seen already in like zoos. They're just super clever and just love to like play with pebbles. And one example of their intelligence is that they will leave crabs out in the sun, so as they dry out, that the shell will crack and then they can easily access the meat from the crab. And since the otters just live very much around water and also in the water and just swimming a lot, since they also get their food from the water like crabs and fish, they require a very, very dense fur to keep them warm, of course. And their fur is as thick as 450,000 hairs per square inch, which is insanely huge. A huge amount to have hair in this small of like area. Like seeing how much hair a human has and then what the otter has in just a square inch is insane. So you can think that the skin of the otter is not getting wet at all, and they are always nice and cozy and warm under their fur. And they also, of course, do like a lot of like, let's say, maintenance of their fur, and to keep it clean and always like super dense and like as thick, so that the water really does not go through the fur and onto the skin. So, and here we are building the boxes that I was talking about earlier. I was looking at like photos of these boxes, and they are normally a little bit smaller than I've built it in here, but we just don't really have a lot of small pieces that are like smaller than 1 meter when it comes to building pieces, so I did it a little bit bigger. It sadly is not traversable for the animals in game because the opening is pretty small, but if you see these boxes next to the otters in game, you can see that they normally would be big enough for them to go in there. And they would just use them as like nesting boxes, for example, to just chill out in there and sleep, or if the females have pups, they will get them in these boxes, and the pups will also stay in the boxes for some time until they start to open their eyes and be a little bit more mobile. And so here I'm using multiple of them inside this habitat. I wanted to have 6 animals in total in here, so I think I used 7 or 8 boxes in total in this habitat, so there's enough for every animal that we have in there. And to keep the animals like entertained throughout the day so that they don't get bored, it is also required to have like some kind of boxes with some sort of bedding for the otters that is possibly not directly next to the nesting boxes that we have. So the otters spend quite a long time of the day carrying the bedding inside their nesting boxes to just make them a little cozy bed for themselves. So that's why I use these boxes or these pots. You could use also like the normal like cartons, like the fruit boxes that we have, and just fill them with any kind of like dried grass that fits in there, that will not poke through the side of the box. So yeah, you can see I really did my research on what the animals need. It was, I believe, a special website for like an organization that is specialized in otters and what they need and stuff like that. So I am pretty sure that they have like a really good resource, and that I can really trust them with my small otters that we have in the Wet Sox Zoo. And they also require, of course, some sort of possible separation, since the animals could of course also get sick, so that we can separate the sick animal from the healthy group. They need some sort of a separation. And that's what I did here. I just used one corner of the habitat and did this small rock wall there, and also of course one of these sliding doors that is open for now and could possibly always be open in case none of the otters need to be separated. But in case one is sick, or maybe even one doesn't get along with the group anymore or anything like that, we always have the opportunity to separate the otters and just close the sliding door. So they are just not with each other, and also have a visible barrier, so they also don't get to see each other in case it really should be like the case that they don't get along with one another for whatever reason. And this little separate section of course also has their own slightly bigger box that is in the backstage area, which is basically similar to the one that you saw at the very beginning, but simply a little bit smaller, because obviously the whole group wouldn't be housed in the separation pen. So yeah, that was what I was doing here. And then we are basically just doing like the basic needs that the otter has, also inside the little holding pen, which is of course a water source, and I decided to also use one of the smaller boxes too, because maybe like we just want to give the otter many opportunities to decide where they just want to chill and sleep, and of course a little pebble area, and one of these little bedding boxes, so it can just spend some time like building its own little like nest, or not really nest, but you know what I mean. And we have a fairly small water section. Of course, it is not as big or as deep as the normal, but yeah, of course, the animals wouldn't be housed too long in this area. So I think that they should be fine if the water area is also not that big. And here I also decided to lay it out with some kind of like concrete, or here specifically it was limestone, because since we are possibly housing sick animals in here, and I just thought that the holding pen, which or separation pen, would also then be needed to be cleaned and like sprayed down and disinfected, depending what the animal had. And to make it just a little bit easier to clean the water area, I just wanted to make it like not like the natural water source that we have in the main area, but more of like a unnatural, or like I think you know what I mean. Just laid out with some hard floor, so it would be easy to like spray down and scrub down, and there's like not a lot of foliage and stuff like that. And we are almost at the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed this. Leave a like and a comment. And if you want to see more of the Wet Sox Zoo and, of course, of other zoos and updates on the newest DLC that we will hopefully get very soon, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye guys!